sure I got this.
Are you ready for me to stand there?
Yeah, I think we're ready to start.
You causing trouble, is that what you're telling me?
No, you talk cause as much trouble you want, but we're starting.
Okay.
Still not there. That'll be fine. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna cover quite a lot today. Thanks for everyone being flexible about showing up on Wednesday. I know it's our abnormal day, but I think more of you showed up because it's abnormal, so that's great. We'll mix it up in the future for you too. Today we're going to cover quite a few things. We're going to cover installing bees, catching swarms, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about swarm prevention and splitting hives. So we're going to try to get through all of that in an hour, and we'll just see where we go. But to kick it off, we're going to learn about catching swarms. So here you go. Put that on where you can. That's all right, just stop, Rob. Oh, no. Just do what you can. Come on.
There we go. My name's Elman, and I going to talk a little bit about catching swarms. And any box that is old, don't make any difference. I go by a lot of old frames. If it's had bees in it before, that will help you even a little bit more. And these right here are just two old boxes that somebody gave me. I nailed them together, put a hole in the front, whoop, right there, yeah. And put this on here just to have a little extra help holding it up in a tree. And of course, I put it up approximately 10 feet, 10 to 12, something like that. I've got cows, so they don't. But the way I normally do it, now there's all different ways you can do it. I put at least 3 to 4, if I've got them, frames that's got cone on it that come out of a different hive. Just something to help catch the swarm. And plus I use a cotton ball. You can use whatever. I use lemongrass oil or any type of attractant that you want to use. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Okay. And just mount it. And mine, I've got a solid bottom on it. You can make it out of anything. And I think that's pretty close. That's pretty short and sweet. But I normally, and you can have them out of anything, because right here's one down here on the floor that Marty brought. His is a little different style, but he's got little different different hive than what I do. So if you're using medium frames for your deeps, you need to have a medium frame. You can make them any size, and you can make one out of this. If that's all you've got. If all you got's a nook, that's handy. You can use this. You can use the box that you've got at the house. Just put your attractant with the old frame. Say you lost the hive, and say, "Oh, okay." Freeze everything to make sure that there's no contamination. But then put it back in there. Put your cotton ball in the back, and they will come to one where you've got it set. Because I've caught at least 3 within the last 10 years that way. I've got an empty one, so I just let it sit there, go ahead and bait it, or just leave it alone sometimes, and that will work.
When do you put it up? Put it up in the spring, or just leave it up all the time?
Well, now I normally I've got one up right now, but I pulled them both down. But right now would be the good time, especially after this rain. Seems like that triggers something. Don't know what it triggers, but it triggers them to decide to swarm. But any way you can do it will help.
So if you have a plastic nuke, doesn't matter.
Don't matter. I mean, you can look online. They've got anything you can think of. They've got out there. All you're trying to do is catch them. I had one go into a birdhouse, and I like to never got them out of it. But I mean, if they're hunting a hole, finding somewhere, if you've got something out, even though you've got your other hives out, there's a chance. I've got one that I set on the back of my gooseneck trailer, just because I mean, you don't know when they're coming.
Three questions. Do you put a lid on it?
Yes. I screw my lid on. Now his down here, Marty's, I'll have to set a brick or something on. You know, he'll have to set something if I put it up in the air, but just to keep the wind from blowing it off.
That answers the second question. What's the front hole for?
That's for the bees to go in. That's the only,
I didn't think it was a top.
no,
Third question is, how do you know you've got bees in there? Instead of just walking in and out.
okay. I mean, you'll see if you're lucky, you'll catch them. I've only seen it one time, so it's going to be tough. Seen them balled up on the front. Otherwise, you can stand there and watch, and if you see some going in and out constant, you may have to watch them for 30 minutes. And then if they're doing that, then you know pretty well that you've got one. But then normally I come up here to verify. I come up here and I've usually got a screw gun, but take that off, just peek in. If I see a bunch of them in there, I'll screw them right back down, then I know what I got to do that night.
This is a 1 day process. It's a 1 week process.
It'll-
When they start coming.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen anytime. Now, I caught 4 last year. The year before, I only caught 1. And I had 3. I've got 2 of these, plus the one that I set on the back of and then it's just an old box that I had laying around. I said, you know, I just need to make one. If I need to go catch something, I can grab and go.
But the queen and they all came. within-
Yep, they all come up.
They were all
Yeah, well, I mean, once they decide to come, they will, you know, I mean, you may check it. I check mine. Well, I'm out checking cattle, so I just drive by. I don't drive too close. I drive far enough away that I can see if there's a bunch of them there going in and out or whatever. But I mean, I check it every other day. You know, I mean, if you're not close by, you know, most of the time I can just look out the door and, oh, I don't see nothing. So
Is there like a prime location to put a trap?
now mine, the ones that I put are normally opening toward a field, but they're about 20 or 30 foot in
Into what?
the woods.
In the woods?
Right. Or you can put them closer to the edge. I mean, I've had my one spot there for 5 or 6 years, and it's about 30 or 40 foot in. And then I try to move it after I catch. If I'm catching one in each hive, I try to move it to a different spot in case they decide, hey, they don't like where I put them. They decide to go back. Well, if they try to go back, it's not there.
I've always heard that once you catch a swarm, you should move it at least 5 miles away,
Well,
just
now
to make sure that they stay there.
stay there. Well, now I haven't heard that, but it could be true. Not for sure, but I've moved mine 100 foot away.
Right.
You know, and then,
I've usually just get into a blade line that's a mile
Yeah.
miles away from me, and we just swap these back and forth.
and then another way that you can kind of solve that is to, as you're transferring them over into whatever box you're putting them in, if you see the queen and you got a queen clip, catch her, set her in there, and wait a day or two, then take her back out and let her, and then that way they'll stay for sure.
Okay, so now you shot a swarm. Sort of like catching a bobcat. Now what do you do?
Okay. Now it becomes, any more questions for me? Because he's gonna,
So how high up the tree did you say you put it, or does it matter?
well, I can reach and touch it from the bottom. I've got cows, so I just take my 4-wheeler, pull it up beside the tree, get in the back of the 4-wheeler and put it up there. So it's 8 to 10 foot because I can touch the bottom. Well, this right here will be another 2 foot off but the hole's about 8 foot.
And that little cotton ball soil.
Right.
Is all you put in there.
Is all I put in there besides the frames that have some old frames. And then you can just put one. But now if you don't have any, you just have to use what you've got, which will be regular frames of what I'm gonna try to do for Marty.
So you take in, just put a couple drops?
Yeah, a couple of 3 drops, enough to where you can get the smell. And then eventually you'll see some swarming around it, some bees going. You think you may have something, but until you see them going in and out constant, and then it may take you a day to see that, if you're not checking them, every other day, and then they may be established real good by the time you get ready. Okay, if that's all, he'll show you how to take them out of that. If you want to use that. Okay. Mhm.
So I'm going to get into how to actually install your bees and then do splits. I'm going to set this down real quick if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So out of curiosity, how many people here are getting bees for the first time this year? Got 1, 2. Anyone getting packages or just nukes?
Last year.
Are you getting a package or a nuke? Nuke.
Got a friend gonna bring the solid box.
Okay, so I don't need to cover packages, which is fine. It's basically like doing a nuke, but just one more little bit of stuff to worry about. So whether you've caught a swarm, which is a temporary position for a hive to be in, or you get a nuke, you got to put it in its forever home. And for first-time beekeepers, this is sometimes your first contact with bees, and everything about it's awkward, clumsy, and intimidating. But thankfully, it's a pretty simple process. So the main thing I want to communicate about, if you're buying a nuke or a package or whatever, it's something that you kind of want to get done in one day. You really don't want to have your bees sitting around very long. And one reason for that is typically the nukes you're going to buy aren't going to be a nice wooden box. They're going to be a corrugated plastic box, very little ventilation. So they're going to get really hot. They're going to get really moody. So it's good to just get them set up. You can keep them for a day or more, but it gets really tough to do that without consequences. So when you get word that it's time to pick up your nuke, I would just say that's your day of getting it set up. And even though this is a quick process, if it's your first time doing it, it's going to take you way longer than you think it should, just because it's going to be like, what do I do? This is crazy, but whatever, it's going to freak you out. That's fine. After you've done it a few times, it takes about 5 minutes. Your first time, give yourself an hour or more. So what you're going to have is your nuke, which will have 5 frames in it. Most all nukes are deeps. So if you, for any reason, you're running mediums or not deeps, you will have to confront the fact that you've been given deep frames and you won't have a deep box, just as a heads up. It's not a big deal. If you're running mediums, you just stack 2 up and then you'll have dead space that they'll fill up with all kinds of wonderful stuff to annoy you later, but they will give you deep frames. So you will have a box set up that this will be their permanent home. You'll need 5 frames in it because you have 5 there that you're going to take. And you're going to go ahead and just take them out because you want all the room you have to work. So don't make it harder yourself and just try to work in it. Just go ahead and pull it all out. Let's see if I can make a mess of my own foundation there. So you have a lovely dirty box. Then the whole process is pretty simple. You're going to take what's in this box and put it in this box. That's really the whole process. Everything after this is about just being careful. So as you go, you want to keep every frame more or less in the exact same order just to not bother the bees. And as you pull your frames out, you're going to be checking for where the queen is. You want to make sure you have a laying queen. So you're either going to be looking for her or you're going to be looking for eggs or larvae. Now, if you're a first-time beekeeper, this might be harder than you think. Eggs are about the width of a hair and maybe 2 millimeters in length. And there are little white things that stick at the bottom of a cup, sticking straight up. So you want to like angle it in the sun and see if you can kind of see them. If you can see an egg, that means that the queen laid within 24 hours. If you see a little tiny white C-shaped thing, just a little bit bigger than I described, that's within like 2 days. If it's bigger than that, 3 or 4 days. So if you can see all these stages, you've got a laying queen, even if you don't spot her. Hopefully the person who made your nuke gave her a paint dot, so she's real easy to find, but even with that, you can still not see her. So you're gonna go through each frame and check them out, and then put them all back in your new box. This is all we're doing. The whole process is this.
And our color this year is white, right?
I don't know, I've never marked, I don't ever worry about marking queens. I have a list of it somewhere, and I'm like, one day I'll do this, make my life easy.
So,
Yeah.
recommendation.
I think last year was blue. So you go through and put them all back. You're gonna put them in the middle, right? And hopefully you saw the queen. If you see the queen, just be super careful when you're moving the frame she's on here, because it can be really easy to like accidentally go and crush a queen. So just be really careful when you do it. And then you're gonna have a box full of bees. So what do we do with this? It's real simple, but super spooky the first time you do it. You just take your box, you lift it over, and give it a great big old shake, shake, shake. And all the bees are gonna go right in there and then right up in your face. So wear your veil. After that, you've got your bees in the box. You're gonna fill in with the rest of your frames. No big deal. And then I am going to tell you that the only real risk that you've got now is that they abscond, which is the fancy word for saying choose a different home. I've never had it happen to me, but it's like, it would be devastating to me if it happened. So you're gonna have your frames in here. What I will tell you to do is put your entrance reducer on the widest setting. One reason to do this is what you have installed is half of a hive of bees, which is pretty good, but it's still not really all that strong yet. So by putting the introducer on, you've given them a little less work to defend the opening and everything else. It also might trigger them to realize they're not where they used to be anymore, which is what we want. So introducer helps them get established, helps them reorient. And the other thing I'll tell you to do is pile some debris or sticks in front of that entrance. This also makes them stop and say, wait a minute, where am I? And all of this behavior helps them want to say, maybe this is my home now. And the signal you want to look for, if you really want to watch, is they'll stick their little butts in the air and wiggle. This is a Nasonov gland, which has a lemony scent, which is what they use to identify home. So if you see bees doing that, that means they've decided to mark the place, and they'll do it within minutes, usually. Like, it's fast. There's no real wait time on that. If you put them in there and you see their butts starting getting up, they've decided this is probably home. The last thing you do is feed your bees. Feed, 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 feed. That's how you get them to grow. And being in the nuke and traveling and all that, they may have depleted the food stores in their frames just getting to you, so go ahead and feed. I will recommend you feed thin syrup, which is more water than sugar. 1.3 to 1 is the magic ratio. But that'll help stimulate wax production, brood production, and everything else. 1-to-1 syrup will do a perfectly fine job, but a little less stimulating for those behaviors. That's installing a nuke.
Should you put on a protein patty or pollen patty too, or not?
You certainly can. Protein patties are one of those those topics that get lots of beekeepers worked up. So pollen patties are, pollen is the only source of protein for bees, and it's really important to them, but a lot of people have said that the pollen patties you can buy have nothing in common with pollen. So maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but what they will do is make hive beetles really happy. So it's up to you. I've had good experience with it sometimes, and I've had bad experience with it sometimes.
I read where, you know, there's a chance that the queen may try to leave and the bees go with them, that you could put the queen reducer on the bottom board and on top of the entrance reducer. And that would, and then when you put the top on, you could slide it back where that hole is, so she couldn't get out that way and leave it that way for a couple of weeks.
So that would be,
What's the chance of them trying to leave?
so that's absconding. And I would say I've never seen it happen for me. I haven't heard too many people in here have absconding issues, but you know, you could cage her and keep her stuck in there for a while. That would do it too. generally speaking, the queens that you're going to get in the nuke are mated, and they don't want to go. She doesn't want to fly anymore. She wants to lay eggs. So leaving is a bit more of a serious thing, and her saying like, I don't like it here. That's going to be, I don't think that's a queen behavior. So I could be wrong about that, but I think that's, I'd be suspicious about all of that personally.
I have heard if they've got fruit in there,
Mhm.
they will stay.
Yeah.
It's more if they want to leave, like what you're talking about.
Yep.
If you catch them.
Yeah, sure. I can see that.
If you catch them, they will.
Yep.
If they don't like it,
They'll leave.
they'll leave.
And I've always been
I'll have them do it.
I've always been told that's more of an issue with package installation than nukes, but
Going back to the swarms too, if you catch a swarm, make sure you wait at least 10 days before you go in there and do that. That's my experience.
Yep.
Because if you don't, it's the same problem. She's not laying yet, because she just got in there, and if you move into a regular sized hive, she's gonna go, I don't like this place. I'm gonna wait.
yeah. So with swarms, you have an unmated queen, and so it's not until they pick a home that she takes a mating flight, and then she will become like going back home. So there's a risk of all of that. With nukes, you almost always wind up with a mated queen, so there's not really a risk of that. In general, though, after you install your nuke, I will tell you to resist the temptation to go in and inspect your hive the next day, or the day after that, or the day after that. Give them a solid week to acclimate before you go rummaging around. Even if the queen dies in that week, you're going to be fine. You just have to realize it happened. You go buy a new queen, and they'll overnight it to you, and you'll be back in business again. It's not the end of the world. So just give them a week before you go back in and see how your little girls are doing.
You leave the entrance exit on the smallest opening or the biggest?
Largest, the smallest I only would ever use for winter. Otherwise, it's the largest. Yep. And things like entrance introducers and all that can give you a little bit of a, I use it for this, I use it for that, but that's kind of how I was taught to do it, and I've had pretty good success with doing that. I tend to use entrance introducers quite a lot if I think my hive is weak for any reason. It just makes me feel better that they have a little less work on their plate. Any questions about installing a nuke?
I just got a general question.
Yes.
So I'm from Wisconsin, so we don't get bees until like May-ish.
Yes.
or June.
Uh-huh.
When do you guys get bees down here?
Last week of April, early May. Yep. That's about when it is. And there's some that are very local, but a lot of people wind up getting them out of Russellville, which is about 2.5 hour drive. So it's a lovely long day with your bees in your car when you do that. But that tends to be the timeline. Yeah.
Is there anybody in Northwest Arkansas that sells bees, sells queens?
Yeah, Hawkeye is the one the big one, and they distribute through the Russellville Central Beekeeping Supply.
I ordered mine through Buckley's Bees in Cassville, Missouri.
Yep, there's some up in Missouri as well. Mhm.
Buckley's Bees.
So, other questions about nukes? Yes.
We get two nukes.
Huh?
How far apart should houses be? We get two.
They can be right up next to one another if you feel like it. It's awkward for you to inspect them, but they don't care. Yeah. If you want to be really fussy about it, the closer they are, the more you have drift. And that's just a fancy word for saying bees aren't that specific about their home. They'll wander into whatever hive they have, and bees are pretty much cool about that. The only reason you would care about that is because you're worried about cross-contamination. If one hive has a disease or unruly pests, they will bring them to the other hive. But if it's your hives in your yard, they're probably all about the same anyway. So some people get fussy about that. I would say, that's more of the beekeeper problem than the actual hive setup, personally. But I have my hives within 2 or 3 inches apart. Yep. And I run my yard like in the setup from the University of Guelph. So it's a U shape, and I have 6 hives all pointing out, so I can walk get to the backs of all of my hives that way. That's how I run them. I don't run them in a line, and I don't run them on a pallet, but that's how I do it. And I've heard from plenty of people that that's a stupid way to do it, but that's beekeeping.
Everybody can.
Yeah, everyone's got it figured out except me. Anything else about nukes? Yes.
So, once you have your nuke set up and they've decided to stay.
Yeah.
You're feeding them
Mhm.
and everything, and they're producing honey and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you know when you need to put a,
Hmm.
what is it?
Super.
The supers on?
Remind me to pay you. That was something I forgot to mention. So if you're running a 10 frame box, you know, the rule of thumb for when you should put a super on is like 80% full. But 80% is kind of a judgment call because no frame's perfectly filled, blah, 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 blah. So you have to make a judgment call on that. But roughly 80% super. If you're running an 8 frame hive and you put 5 frames in, you're really close to 80% full. And if you're running a 7 frame, congratulations, you're right there already. So if you're running a smaller set than 10, you may need to super as soon as you install your nuke, just so you don't encourage swarming immediately, because that is, swarming behavior is part genetic, part environment, and part time. And so if they feel like they're cramped, they're going to want to swarm. If they have a particular genetic streak that says we love swarming, they're going to swarm. And if it's spring, they want to swarm. So if you're running a smaller than 10 frames, I might advise supering as soon as you install a nuke. But I don't know. I only run 10, so I don't know if that's good advice or not. Anything else? Let's talk about splits and swarm prevention. Yeah. So if you are a first-time beekeeper, you're worried about installing your bees and making it through the winter. If you're a second-time beekeeper or second-year beekeeper, you realize you might have bees coming out of winter. What do I do now? And this is where we get into splitting hives or preventing swarms. I'm not really going to talk about swarming behavior so much, but I am going to talk about the actual splitting techniques and when to do it, because that is one of the ways you do it. So swarming season really hits for beekeeping starting this month. So for new beekeepers, you don't have your bees yet. For all the apiaries that make nukes, they're about to start making them this month to be ready for all of you, which means they're splitting. And so hives are going to start waking up. They're going to start growing rapidly through the month of March and then April. And so that's the prime time to start splitting. If you do not split during that month, it may not be the end of the world, but you may wind up with your hives swarming on you. It's not the end of the world. It just means your hive lost half its population and they went off to greener pastures. But if you have any intention of growing your apiary, like you started with 1 hive and now you want 2, splitting is how you do this on the cheap. It's also, and you can get into, like, we can debate this, but I think one of the last sentences about beekeeping kind of said that there's no sustainable wild beehives anymore. That's not a thing anymore. They're all domestic. So a swarm is probably going to die. So if you can take care of it, that's better than them going off and dying in the next year or 2. But you can certainly let it happen. It's fine. When I got into it, that was my intention. And then I learned that that wasn't really viable. So now I split my hives. The process for splitting is almost the exact opposite of doing this, at least the basic version. So we're going to talk about walkaway splits first, which is what most people like to do. It is every book tells you how to do it. It's what most beekeepers do. It works great. It's totally fine. So you will do a split when your hive is getting full and you think they might want to swarm soon, or because you just want to grow your hives. You can split anytime you feel like it, really. Not during winter, that would be bad, but anytime during the season, you could split a hive. You could split as frequently as every 6 weeks if you feel like it. But to split a hive with a walkaway split, and if any of you have done this and you feel like he didn't say something important, just jump in. Or if you have a question, just ask, it's fine. So we will say, this is our original hive we think is going to swarm and I want to split it. This is what I'm going to split into. The process is really basic. I'm going to take 5 frames out of this. I want 2 or 3 frames of brood in various stages of capped and uncapped. They go in. I want 2 frames of food on the sides. And I want to know where my queen is. She's got to be in one of these 2 boxes, and I want to know which one, because one of them needs a new queen. So as I do this, I'm checking for it. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to shake another couple frames of bees into here. And before I shake, I'm checking for the queen, because I want to know where she is. So I'll take this and shake, shake, shake. Take another, shake, shake, shake. So at this point, I have 5 frames of bees, and I've shaken a few more in. I should know where the queen is. I need to know where she is, so I will have looked no matter what. I will figure it out. But at this point, I can backfill with the frames that are missing. Introducers, feed, done. One of these has a queen and one of them does not. At this point, you have choices. You can let them raise a queen by themselves, an emergency queen. That'll take roughly a month. You can buy a queen and install it. That'll take 3 days. And you may have it, it'll either be mated or a virgin queen, but it'll be ready in 3 days. You could, depending on what your timing was like, potentially use a swarm cell that they made, but that gets kind of tricky because they've already decided to swarm. But those are 3 ways you get a queen. And they're all options. The main thing about a walk-away split is it's this, you close it up and you walk away. It's done. If you care about the timing with your queen, then walk-away splits get a little trickier because they're done in one shot. You do it all at once. As soon as you make this new one without a queen, they realize it and they want to make a new queen. The longer that takes for you to re-queen on top of it, the more angry they'll get about it and likely kill your new queen. They won't accept it. They'll want their own. So if you want to purchase a queen and do this, you want to do that kind of coinciding with when you do your walk-away split so that all that matches, which is one of the weaknesses of the technique. But again, you can let them raise their own. It's fine. But this is the technique most beekeepers use is a walk-away. And then you have 2 hives. One of the topics that comes up is I put my hive right next to my old one. What if all my bees go back to the old one? I haven't had this happen yet. But again, I put an introducer and things on it, and they tend to figure it out. And the next technique I will show you will make this even more exaggerated as to why them being close by doesn't matter. But it's a thing people get really worked up about, like, oh, this hive has to be like 300 yards away, or they'll come back. I've yet to have this problem.
Sorry.
Yes.
Introduce on both.
They're both weak at this point. So I want to give them everything I can to rebuild. Yep. Any questions about a walk-away? Anything you think I missed about a walk-away?
Feeding externally or internal?
Sorry, what's that?
Feeding.
Either way you'd like. Yeah.
So what if we go get ready to split and we find queen cells already going on the brain?
Yeah. This gets tricky. So if there are swarm cells there, they have decided to swarm. What happens after this is, to me, all over the map. You could potentially pull the swarm cells and do a new hive, shake bees, and like, hopefully it works. Or they could just swarm again because they decided they were swarming and the swarm cells are them swarming. So you could try to split them and they swarm out of that swarm anyway and you have a quarter of your bees left. This can happen. It could be that you catch it and put it in. They're like, everything's great now. Lots of stuff can happen, but they have gone through the work and made the decision to swarm, and so it gets really hard to stop it. The last technique I will discuss is a way to try to stop this, and I'll show you another way with a double screen board to deal with this. But it's really hard to convince bees to stop swarming once they've started.
So finding queen cells pretty much means they're going to swarm. 'Cause they made the decision.
They've made it, yeah. So you have to interrupt that somehow and make them think something else has happened, and there are ways to do it, but it's not intuitive to me on how you do all those things. And I've heard enough stuff that it's just I don't have enough consistency to be able to give you good advice about it. Yes.
It sort of depends on where you find the queen cell too. If you find the queen cell high in your frame,
That's a supersedure cell.
That's a
Yeah.
supersedure cell. So
That's fine.
that one's probably better for you.
I don't know what that means.
That means that the current queen you have is starting to fail.
Okay.
And they said, we need supersedure. Now,
Yeah.
swarm cells, you're probably gonna have on bottom.
More than
and
one.
There's gonna be more than one. It's probably gonna be 4 or 5.
Yeah. So when they're up inside the foundation itself, I'd be amazed if one of these doesn't have remnants of one. So supersedure cell will be up here. It'll be like this little finger thing in there. That means they are replacing their old queen. No problem. They do this. When they hang off the bottom, that's a swarm cell, and they will make multiples. It's never going to be one. If you think you only found one, you missed it. There's more than one, always. That's the one that's like, we are going to swarm.
Why do they do more than one?
Just for redundancy and names, like they do it to protect themselves from losses, so they can have multiple chances to get out. And there are things called after swarms. So one queen emerges, they swarm. Next day, another queen emerges, and like swarm, and they go again. So they can have after swarms. Yes, you've been patient. Thank you.
So if you find the swarm cells,
Mhm.
why don't you just eliminate the swarm cells?
Because they already decided. They've decided.
Okay.
So you decided to kill them, they'll do it again. They don't care. They've made the decision.
Even if you destroy all the queen cells.
They'll do it again.
Even after you get rid of the swarm cells.
They'll keep going.
They've already swarmed once, they may do it again.
Yeah.
I had one do it 2 times and I said, no, wait a minute.
Mhm.
Something's going on, so I went in there and cleaned it all out.
So yeah,
Cleaned
pinching.
it all, make sure there was a queen in there before I did.
Yeah.
Cleaned
So
everything up, and they finally decided to stay. Or
Yeah.
I would be,
Yeah.
there'd be another one coming out.
so there's a lot of common advice about pinching swarm cells, and there are reasons to do it, but it will not stop a swarm. So by the time the cells are there and they're capped, it's happening.
Do they swarm because they're overcrowded?
That's one of the environmental pressures. Yeah. And so you can think about a beehive, like a whole hive, as its own organism. And so it has to reproduce, and it reproduces by swarming. So as a beekeeper, we recognize that moment happens when they're getting full, when it's spring, or we just have really swarmy bees. Yep. But yeah.
So, sorry, my question is, it's wintertime,
Mhm.
they're trying to survive through the winter.
Yeah.
Spring comes along, I mean, you would think that they would swarm later in the year, or why do they swarm in the spring instead of like September?
So
I mean,
yeah.
they have that year to get everything ready to go and then go.
So bees, what makes honeybees special compared to all other insects in its category is that it overwinters as a whole colony. Pretty much every other insect like it dies off except a queen. But a honeybee chooses to survive winter, and they do that by storing honey. So their entire life cycle is based around their whole colony surviving instead of just protecting a queen. So they swarm so that their whole hive can survive winter by having enough honey for winter. That's why they choose to do it as early as possible. You get really swarmy bees, though, and they'll keep going all the way through August. That's where the genetics come in. Yep.
Okay, so I have a horizontal hive that
Mhm.
holds 30 frames. Last year was my first year with bees. So I wound up with, I think, the most of 17 frames. If I keep my bees happy, if I keep giving them more frames to work with, will they fill up that whole thing with, 30 frames is a lot.
Next question. I don't know. So I don't know what will happen with you, but here's when I mentioned there's like 3 factors for swarming. The environment is only one of them. So you can give them as much room as you'd like, and they may still swarm because of genetics and time. They want to swarm in spring. So you can give them room all day long, and they'll still try to do it sometimes.
So a traditional
Uh-huh.
hive that's doing well, how many frames are we talking?
So in a 10 box hive, you'll see I would say 8-ish frames filled out of food, brood, and everything.
Okay, but I've seen people that have to stack.
Yeah. So then they stack up. So the most I've ever had on a hive was probably 4 boxes. So 40 frames.
Okay, so my 30 is not unreasonable.
No,
It's
no.
not unreasonable.
Yeah.
Depending on how much brood you got.
Yeah.
and how much honey you get.
Yep.
If you pull some honey this spring, you will lose.
Yeah, you'll reset that number.
You'll recycle, and then they'll start.
Yeah.
Put it back on that.
Okay, well, I already opened it up a couple weeks ago and they have honey.
I think what he's saying is when they start getting some honey in there in the spring, harvest it, and then you can give them the frames back.
Yeah, and they'll keep
and then
going.
They'll have another place to put more honey easily. Just
Okay.
So, yeah.
Convincing them that they need to make more because they don't have enough, or, I mean,
Well, it's-
obviously their nature is to just keep making it.
So you can pull the spring honey, one, because you want to, but also in a way it's like if they can work with waxed pre-built stuff, and they have a better time doing that than drawing out wax. They would rather work with pre-made stuff and draw out more. So in a way, if you can pull honey and you feel like that's the right thing to do, they'll actually enjoy the fact that they get to use wax again, and they may be more productive with it.
And then I could use one of those frames to trap.
Yeah, and you'll lighten some of the
Extra frames.
yeah. But yeah, so swarming is a thing whether you give them enough room or not. It's just part of it. Doesn't mean it's an all or nothing, but it's one of the factors is time, and spring is the time for them.
I've not heard people pulling honey in the spring.
I did last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled. I've had three supers on top of one brood box.
Yep.
And I'll always leave one super full of honey. Now, he does it a little different than I do.
And so super is 10 frames.
Super is 10 frames,
Okay.
and then I leave that for over winter.
So I don't think I have 10 frames, so they don't have a lot.
Well, so like spring honey isn't like some big formal crop. It's just sometime before the mid to late June, and you're like, I'm gonna go look at honey, and if they have some, you can choose to take some or not. You don't have to take it all. You can take whatever you feel like. If you want to pull a frame or two just because you can't wait, it's probably fine. There's gonna be more honey flow later on. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
They've got the rest of the summer to fill it up.
Yeah.
They got enough of it in the fall. I
And
haven't
you-
taken any fall honey, but
And you can feed them if they're running light. You can feed.
I mean, there's all kinds of options there you can do.
Yep.
So you said environmental, some bees just.
Genetics.
Nature want to swarm, and then.
Time.
The last thing, it's springtime, it's time to swarm. Okay. How can you look into your box? If you don't see swarm cells.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, don't worry about it, or is it like, well, gee, I got a lot of bees, I'll just go ahead and split them.
So the way I look at it, and maybe this is the wrong way to look at it, is when it's spring, I consider swarming an eventuality. They're going to do it no matter what I do. I can slow it down by giving them more room, but they're going to do it at some point. So I choose to split before I think that day happens so that I can reset the clock on them. Because once I split them, that is an interruption to their behavior. They don't think that they need to swarm ever again because they're in a brand new hive with a brand new queen. Why would they swarm? So that's why I do it. It's one, I can grow my apiary, and the other reason is I can just sort of skip it.
And if you
Entirely.
swarm early enough in the spring and let them create their own queen, then you don't have to buy or
Yeah.
worry about getting.
Yeah, some people are really particular about when bees raise their own queen, they may raise a less good queen, but that's a thing to worry about if you're really obsessive and you think buying a queen would be better, which you can't guarantee.
So that queen won't be less than what we had before, or is that?
So the queen,
Make their own queen is gonna be not as productive.
the risk is, so the worker bees, when they choose to make a queen, they can either make it from an egg all the way up to uncaps larva. The later, the older the larva gets, the more that larva has developed as not a queen, and that is going to developmentally stunt that queen on some level. That's the risk. That doesn't, yeah, she doesn't get enough time to develop as a queen. She's already done development as a worker. So that's the risk. That's the less good of a queen. What impact that has, dream up whatever you like. I don't know. But that's what people get worried about with that. But you could just as easily go buy a queen for $65 and she dies in 3 days because she was a dud. And meanwhile, your less perfect emergency queen could be great for 3 years. So I say do whatever makes sense for you on that one. Yeah.
So we're talking 3 to 5 years for a queen.
A lot of people, so a queen can technically live up to 5 years, but they say she's only going to be productive for 3 at best. And some people go even further and say, why even do that? Replace them every year. So, but yeah, they can live up to 5. In my experience, they ain't going to make it to 5. if you're lucky.
So you mark your queen.
You can.
White or whatever. color
Yeah.
you're using, right?
Some people do that and they clip the wings. They do all kinds of stuff to help them with their queens. But yeah, it rotates. So you mark your queen with white, so you know how old she is 3 years from now. She was a white queen, so that means she's 3 years old. Yeah, and that way when they replace the queen and there suddenly doesn't have a dot, you know what happened. You want to learn the next way to do a split? Okay. So this is the way I do splits with a double screen board. I've done this before for you guys, but hey, why not? So this is a double screen board, also called a Snellgrove board. It's magical and weird, and I have to think about it every time I use it. So why I use this technique over a walkaway is I get a lot more control over the process, and I don't have to be like, I have to get it all done in one day. I can spread this out over a week or two, and it's fine. It is technically a little more work. So here's the way it works. I've got the hive I want to split, and I've got the hive, my new hive I want to make. I'm going to do the same part as a walkaway split. I'm going to form my new hive. I want to make sure my queen is in the bottom box, though. I want to know she's there. That's just convenient for me. Now, what I'm going to do, queen's down the bottom, queen excluder goes on, and done. So what I've done is I've trapped the queen down here. I've put brood and food and everything else I want up here, and I can let it sit like this for a while. All the worker bees will move happily up and down and do whatever they want like normal. No big deal, right? So the day I want to bring a new queen into the picture and say, let's do this, I come back, take this off, plonk this sucker on, and I have split my hives. What has just happened is this double screen board has a gap between it, and that gap is large enough so that bees can no longer transmit the queen pheromone, which means everyone above the board can no longer smell the queen below the board, which means this top hive now thinks it's queenless, and it is now its own hive. So this is, do what?
Because it's a screen, so why does the smell not go?
There's two screens, and there's a gap of about 1 inch between them. So that gap is what creates a pheromone break. So the bees can't walk the scent around anymore. So everything below has the smell of the queen. They can't get up. So everything above this has no more smell for that queen, which triggers this hive to say, oh my gosh, we're queenless. We're a new hive now.
So the pheromone that they bring is on their body?
They walk around with it, yeah. They transmit it with their antennas. Yeah. So when this happens, this is the moment where this is a new hive. This is the moment where they want a new queen. This is the moment they're going to freak out and start trying to raise one. And it's the moment I choose to deal with. This is when I make the hive the split. And so I can introduce a new queen. I could raise an emergency queen. I'll tell you how to use swarm cells in just a minute with this. But now I have this. And they can sit here like this for a while. I can leave them like this for as long as I'd like. There's an entrance right here. This hive can fly out and do whatever it wants. The forager bees that were stuck up here are going to fly out and forage and then go right back down beneath. The nurse bees are going to stay up here because they don't really leave. And because this is a screen, all the warmth from the hive down below is going to keep this hive up here warm too. So this hive up top gets the benefit of not having to work so hard while it establishes, while the hive below gets all the workers, foragers, and everything else still working for me. So I get to capitalize on the warmth right here. And the bees up here don't leave and go down beneath. They stay right here in this box, just that far away, and they never think to leave. So this is a double screen board split. You can. Lots of people recommend doing it. So lots of people do it. You certainly don't have to. I've not observed any difference by doing it. There are people that'll be like, for this week you have it this way, and this week you swip it this way, and do like just crazy stuff. I have yet to find it make a difference.
So
Yes.
you said that the bees that take care of the brood stay in the top.
Yep.
The worker bees that go out after you split it, go back to the bottom?
When they take off and leave and they come back,
Who's bringing in pollen, who's bringing in the nectar?
this top box is raising its own foraging force. So this top hive will have a queen that is not mated probably. So I need to let it take a month for that queen to take mating flights, start laying, and for the brood to come out. That's when this hive is safe to move by itself. Up until then, it doesn't have a foraging force. So it will not really do well by itself yet. So it stays here for about a month while it gets stronger.
You're talking queen that you bought and
The bot, or I let it raise, or a swarm cell, whatever queen I wanted this to have. Yeah,
when you buy a queen, you already made it.
sometimes. Yeah. You can buy them unmated, you can buy them mated. Yeah. But if it's a mated queen, then yeah, I can do this in 3 days and be done with it. But
So where do you get the screen?
you can buy them from any bee supply shop. They're either called a Snellgrove board or a double screen board. Yeah. Snellgrove or a double screen. Yeah, I will. If there was already one on, I'll put it back on top there or under there. Yes. Yep. Or I'll leave it on top, but typically I'll put it down there because that's where the foragers would be. Yep. The downside of this is when I need it, if I use frame feeders, so feeding this bottom hive really sucks. So I have to take it all apart every time. But other than that, I think this works really nice. I haven't had any issues doing this method. And I like that I can order a queen and come back in a week if I have to and then deal with it or whatever. Yep. Questions about this method? Let's say you open a hive and you see swarm cells everywhere. They want to swarm. They've decided to swarm. What can you do? You can put some of the frames with 2 swarm cells in one box, put a double screen board, do the exact same thing on the bottom box with 2 new swarm cells, and walk away. The queens have about a 70% chance to survive their mating flights. So putting 2 gives you pretty much guarantee 1 is going to make it. So let's say of the 2 boxes, only 1 queen makes it. That's bad luck. But guess what? You just combine them back and you have a new hive. Let's say both make it. Each box gets a new queen. Congratulations, you have 2 new hives. And this board prevents them from fighting about it and lets you capitalize on the warmth that they both produce. So that's a way to deal with swarm cells using a double screen board. And that would turn 1 hive into 3 just by looking for swarm cells. Does that melt your mind a little bit? These double screen boards are kind of funky. Apparently they're really popular in Europe. Not that I know much about that, but they're not very popular in the US. That's why no one talks about them much. Okay, got 5 minutes left. I was going to talk about the Demaree method for swarm prevention, which I have never used, but I will describe it for you if you'd like. And the reason you would use this is to try to stop a swarm from happening, but also not split your hive. So you just want a really big hive, the Demaree method is the way to do it, as opposed to splitting into new. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Okay. What's going to happen is you have a hive that's really big, and it's going to swarm, or maybe it already has swarm cells. So what we're going to do is, in the bottom box, I am going to leave 1 or 2 swarm cells, and I'm going to put everything else in another box. I am then going to put the queen excluder on and 2 honey supers on top of this box with the swarm cells on it. Then I am going to place the old box on top. What this is supposed to do is down here that this box is going to deal with a swarm, and it's going to say, hang on, all our bees are gone. And up here, they're going to say, wait a minute, where's the queen? Because she's gone. and there's a queen excluder, and there's also this huge gap of boxes. So both halves are tricked into thinking they already swarmed, so they stop. That's how this is supposed to work. I don't really get it, because bees will be traveling up and down and all through this whole process. Doesn't make sense to me, but this is apparently a fairly popular way to prevent swarms. I'd recommend looking it up if it's something you're interested in, but it does require 2 honey supers between 2 brood chambers and a queen excluder. And you have to come back and make sure you keep eliminating swarm cells for a while until they get it through their heads that this isn't going to happen anymore. But apparently this will work after a couple tries. But it's a lot of manipulation to pull it off. No idea. But people argue that this is the best way to eliminate swarming behavior, but also keep all your bees so you have the biggest hive possible for honey production. That's what people say about it. But then again, people say stuff like that about beekeeping anything, so I don't know.
Can I just put a graph up of one line and one swarm, and you'll find it in the bin?
I mean,
They want to go somewhere far away.
so they can travel quite a bit of distance. You don't know where they're really going to go. But you could also do a split. You could do the double screenboard split. Like you could split it if you were worried, if you wanted a new hive. But if you were going to proactively try to stop a swarm from ever happening, you could do this to them and just try to keep one huge hive instead of splitting. That's when I would only consider this if I did not want to grow my apiary anymore, to try to keep as many bees in one spot as possible.
And then would you have to change that double D?
I think after you've eliminated the behavior, you could probably reconfigure it.
You would have to do double D.
Yeah, you'd be stuck with a double D. Yep. Which, yeah, which I wouldn't want, but I mean, you're going for a super hive.
They're paying.
Yep. I mean,
They are.
yeah, and it,
By the time you check the bottom, it's-
yeah, and it makes sense. Like you're building a super hive with this technique, so you're gonna wind up with a double brood chamber, no matter what. So I can't field questions about this technique. I did want to show you the basics, but we are about done. So any last questions about anything beekeeping we can answer before our time is up? No?
And, you buy that string, just the metal string, not the
This part?
gold. Yes.
I don't know. I bought this pre-made, but this looks like hard.
Just on feeders, jar feeders.
Oh, like you want a mesh for the sugar water to run out of?
But I've got the gravity pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
We're doing the frame feeders on top of those.
Yeah.
But some, I drilled some new holes, jar falls through, and I needed a string.
Oh, I know you can buy hardware cloth like this at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Or tractors, hardware cloth.
Yeah. Yes. And they come in different sizes. Oh, nice.
So, I'm talking about a little hole.
Yes. Yeah. I don't
They say you'll triple your honey.
do what's that?
You'll triple your honey.
Yeah. The claims they make with it are pretty substantial. But I've heard of that stuff also with checkerboarding. Yeah. Yeah. So by all means. Yeah. Cool. Ready for the 50-50?
Yes, we have $16.
Woo-woo. Oh. I think I know who my favorite is to win over there.
Last 3 numbers.
989. Does anyone have 989 for the 50-50?
Last 3 numbers.
Yes.
Not today.
No?
989,
Last
last 3.
3 digits are 989. I know. 989. Yeah. Hey. We're about to draw a new one, man. One last thing before we break. I mentioned this last meeting, but we have positions on our board that do need to be filled. Treasurer, secretary, and potentially our president, Brian, will be leaving too. We have to have these positions filled or we will have to close the club. So Phyllis is our treasurer. If you have any questions about what those responsibilities are, please talk to her. But we have to fill these positions very soon. I can tell you from my side of things and how we work, nothing we do is complicated or hard. We basically just put all our effort into showing up every month. That's a lot. Treasurer, secretary, and maybe president coming up. So we're not going to do elections tonight, but if you think you could spare what, an hour a month, that's about what we're looking for.
They told me that for Cub Scouts years ago.
Oh no, Scouts. That is a practice lie on their part. Yeah, we're not the Scouts. We got no popcorn to sell. Thank you. If you have any other questions, I'll be sticking around for a few minutes, but thank you all for coming. I don't know what we're going to do next month or our topic is yet. But in general, we try to stay like a month or two ahead of whatever a beekeeper is going to be dealing with. But if there's a topic you're really interested in, just let us know. Thank you. Yeah.
Careful.